Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we will gain insight and knowledge on the Blue Cat Multiband 7 mixer. This plugin is made to solve two things. The first is multiband workflow, meaning doing things in a multiband fashion can sometimes be quite complicated, adds a lot of extra steps that just aren't that friendly towards getting work done. The second is it fixes the problem of loading VSTs into DAWs that still haven't gotten the message that VSTs are the standard. So if you use a DAW and it doesn't let you load a VST in it, you may be able to load the Blue Cat Multiband 7 mixer and gain the ability to load VSTs. So this is a big deal for those folks. This plugin also comes with 28 additional effects as well. So it's pretty dang amazing for everything that comes with it. So I want to explain the multiband workflow problem just to give you a point of view on why this is an incredible plugin. So the problem is pretty straightforward. Let's say you've got a mixing, you've got a sound, you're working into your mix, but if you put an effect on it, it's going to process the entire band, all the frequencies. This is also called wideband. But in reality, the effect you want, you really only want it to process the high end. So you have a couple of options to get this done. The first is you could create a parallel bus with an EQ on it, followed by the effect you want. In other words, you're going to filter out the low end so that you have a bus with only the high end, and then you're going to affect it. This, however, is going to sum with the original signal. So now you've got the problem of the high end being there twice, and you can mix it in parallel, and that could be cool, but you really want it separated. And so you could add another side bus and this time take the high end out with an equalizer. And now you've got the low end separated and the process high end, and you can put them together. But you had to set these filters manually, and that's not always the most accurate way of doing things. And this is also just a ton of steps. Can you imagine doing this for multiple sounds in your mix? It's just gonna get a little bit troublesome to try and accomplish multi-band things this way. So you have a different option. You could just put the effect on the entire sound and try to fix it up with EQ after. That is also a compromise. That's not that great. And then finally, this is the easiest option. You could just put the Blue Cat Multiband 7 mix on the channel. And now you could split it up into up to 7 bands and process each differently. And the filters are set up and are also variable frequency and slope to boot. So this is just a really, really elegant solution to a problem that kind of plagues some levels of creativity. I mean, if we're talking workflow, you could set up entire chains of processes you typically use for like a vocal or a drum and just load up the 7 mix and have it right there ready to go. And this also can do mid-side, and you can have mid-side per band going on. I mean, it can get really crazy really fast and be really efficient just because you can load up processes and have them, bam, there they are. And you're no longer compromising over if your filters are in the right spots. And you can also tune it to whatever vocal you have. Like if it's in a different frequency range, you'd have to set up the entire process that I described earlier for that specific sound to tune it to that particular thing. Where here you could just move the filters a little bit with the knobs and you're set. This to me is why the Multiband 7 mix is a plugin that's worth having. Of course, Blue Cat always takes the delivery a couple steps further. For example, this is the 3rd major update to the plugin. It's always nice to see a company that actually works on their older products and continues to deliver to loyal customers. The displays are as impressive as they always are, as you would come to expect from Blue Cat. And the plugin also has a multi-link functionality. This is just a cool thing. So faders can be controlled in multiple instances at the same time with global groups. You simply put them in the same global group, and when you move one, all the faders in that global group will change. A quick side note, I had to use VST3 in order to get this feature to work, just so you're aware. The CPU has also been a non-issue for me, but be sure to run the proper version for your setup. The VST3 has nearly 0 impact on my system, so be sure to be using the correct version. This plugin offers so many possibilities, and the additional effects included are so vast that I just want to walk you through one of the endless possibilities with this plug. All right, so I've got here a greasy bass line for you. Sounds like this. Let's go ahead and hear it dry so we could see what the 7 mix is doing. So here it is without the 7 mix on it. So it's doing work. It's doing some stuff here that is pretty important. So let's go ahead and see, how did I set this up? So you could work on 7 bands, you know, oh, 7 bands, it's so many bands, so useful. But in reality, you're probably going to be using mostly 2, 3, and 4. Not very much 5, 6, 7, simply because that's just a lot of divisions, where 3 is real nice because you have sort of your mids, your highs, and your lows. 4 is nice because you can do low mids, upper mids. Then after that, the separation, you're only really going to grab in, you know, specific cases. So it's really nice. It goes up to 7 bands. Give it a second. It'll show you. Like, you could go up this high. But like for what I just explained, generally I work in the 3, 2, 3, 4 kind of range. So here I've got my lows, my mids, my highs. And I've got my different effects that I'm putting on each. And on the bottom, there is a comb filter. Now, if I solo the bottom, and let's just bypass the comb filter, this is what I have. Now I'm going to add the comb filter. So there's a little bit of wobble there that wasn't there before, and I liked what this did to the low end, and so I dig it. That's what I went for. Now on the next option here, I had my mid band, and these 2 regions are more tonal. They have more harmonics, so they're going to have a bigger impact on the tone of the sound. So if I bypass the wave shaper, which a wave shaper, you know, that's gonna be a pretty crazy effect. So let's go ahead and play it without the wave shaper. Now with it. And so I like this for what it did. Now you can tune it in to exactly what frequencies you want it to touch, which is why multiband's so nice. If I were to slap this wave shaper on the entire sound, I'm just gonna get a garbled junk back. Like it's just gonna be too much for the sound. So it really makes a lot of sense to try and filter it out, and that's why this plugin is so cool. Now I can dial in the filtering just by moving my frequency knobs and deciding where I want to set it. So if I play it, now I settled for this sort of mid region because those high ends were a little bit crispy, a little more crispy than I wanted. So I said, hey, I'm going to dial this back, and I settled there. Then finally, for the high region, I have 2 things. One of them isn't doing that much. I have another comb filter, and then I have a frequency shifter here. The frequency shifter isn't doing all that much, but the idea I originally had was I'm going to push some of the frequencies down into the low end to get hit by the wave shaper just to see what would happen. Ended up being not as great as I thought. So here it is with it going through dry. So here it is with the comb filter. And that just makes it a little bit more chorusy, which is what I wanted. Like, let me just do it again with it off. Now here it is with it on. So you can hear the comb filter like it softens it up a bit, which I liked. And then let's toss the frequency shifter on it. So off. So that one, again, wasn't that big of a deal. Now, these moves by themselves seem kind of small, but when you put them together, it's really nice to have the moves exactly where they should be, because they add up when you put them all together. You just get a great sound out. So it is louder, but I really like the tone that just came out of this. So that is one example. There are, of course, many. You could use this for your drum processing, for vocals. If you've got a loop that has different tonal elements in it, it's often easier to move things out. And that is one case where I would use more bands. If I had like a orchestral loop, I might be able to nail some certain areas of instruments that I want to hit a lot easier with 7 bands, as opposed to doing sort of this more wideband thought process. So that is the Blue Cat Multiband 7 mix. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.